Welcome to Histology Channel. At the dawn of existence, absolute nothingness reigned supreme. The cosmos existed solely as an enormous chaotic sea, until Ben surfaced from this primeval disorder. Ben appeared as a colossal pyramid-shaped hill, crowned with a magnificent lotus blossom. When this sacred flower opened its petals, it released the mighty god Ra into existence, bringing divine illumination to the void. Before we continue, please subscribe to our channel to support us. It helps us spread the word and create more videos for you. Ra, through his divine will alone, created the initial generation of deities. He brought forth Shu, the master of atmospheric winds, and Tefnut, the bringer of life-giving moisture. The cosmos remained surrounded by endless primordial waters. Shu and Tefnut ventured deep into these mysterious depths to discover their true extent. Ra grew deeply troubled when his children's exploration lasted far longer than expected, fearing permanent separation from them. He dispatched his most trusted herald to locate the missing gods. When Shu and Tefnut finally returned unharmed, Ra's overwhelming relief and happiness was so profound that human beings emerged from his joyful tears. Upon their safe return, these divine children produced their own offspring: Geb, the sovereign of terrestrial realms, and Nut, the celestial goddess ruling the heavens above. Through their union, both sky and earth came into being. The magnificent god Ra ruled the entire universe with absolute authority and earned recognition as Egypt's first divine pharaoh. This benevolent deity blessed Egypt with numerous sacred creatures, including majestic oxen and powerful lions. But his most precious gift was the creation of the life-sustaining Nile River. Along its fertile banks, humanity would establish a remarkable civilization devoted to honoring the gods. However, Ra received a troubling vision that his future descendants would produce a new generation of deities destined to overthrow his reign. To prevent this prophecy, the great god strictly forbade any union between sky and earth. Despite this divine prohibition, Nut and Geb defied Ra's command and gave birth to 4 powerful children: Isis, Nephthys, Seth, and Osiris. These new gods successfully dethroned Ra, and Osiris ascended to rule the world. Yet this new ruler's position remained precarious because his ambitious brother Seth coveted absolute power for himself, thus beginning the epic saga of Egyptian divine conflicts. After overthrowing the creator god Ra, the deity responsible for Egyptian civilization's origin, Osiris claimed dominion as the universe's new supreme ruler. This benevolent god chose the wise goddess Isis as his divine consort and initiated an era of unprecedented prosperity. Osiris elevated humanity from their primitive existence by teaching essential skills including advanced agriculture, intricate weaving techniques, and bread-making methods. Additionally, he established comprehensive legal systems that transformed chaos into ordered society. Egyptian civilization flourished magnificently under this compassionate god's wise leadership. Unfortunately, Osiris possessed a dangerous and power-hungry brother named Seth, whose domain encompassed the barren desert regions surrounding prosperous Egypt. Seth harbored intense jealousy toward his brother's fertile and thriving kingdom. Osiris engaged in an affair with Nephthys, Seth's wife, and from this forbidden union emerged Anubis, the god who would govern death's mysteries. Enraged by his brother's betrayal, Seth methodically planned his terrible revenge. The god of desolate lands and evil's personification invited Osiris to an elaborate feast supposedly held in his honor. During this deceptive celebration, Seth presented his guests with an exquisitely crafted coffin, declaring he would gift it to whichever person fit perfectly inside. When Osiris decided to test the fit, Seth immediately sealed the coffin, trapping the supreme god within. The evil deity cast this prison into the Nile's waters, drowning the divine ruler through treacherous deception. Isis grieved inconsolably after losing her cherished husband, and her endless tears flowing into the Nile River created its characteristic annual flooding. Ulth, the goddess, and her sister Nephthys searched desperately for Osiris's remains. After Isis discovered the body and attempted concealment, Seth found it nonetheless, and violently dismembered it into 42 pieces, scattering them throughout Egypt's vast territories. With Anubis's crucial assistance, Isis painstakingly recovered every fragment. Under the death god's expert guidance, she mummified Osiris using her supernatural abilities. The goddess successfully resurrected her beloved through divine intervention. But Osiris would now reign exclusively over the realm of the deceased. Following his miraculous return to life, Osiris and Isis conceived a son named Horus, who solemnly vowed to defeat Seth and reclaim the throne that rightfully belonged to him. Seth, the destructive deity who had murdered Osiris, the supreme ruler of Egyptian mythology, seized his brother's throne and established a reign of absolute terror. Nevertheless, Osiris had produced an heir with the goddess Isis, a son called Horus. This falcon god was destined by prophecy to command the heavens and restore light to Egypt, ending the darkness that Seth had brought upon the land. When Horus reached maturity, he decided to reclaim his throne from his usurping uncle. The divine court, presided over by the sun god Ra, judged this succession dispute to determine the rightful heir. A series of epic confrontations between Seth and Horus commenced. Seth enjoyed Ra's favor because the usurper defended the sun god against the serpent Apophis during celestial journeys. Seth proposed a challenging contest. Both gods would transform into hippopotamuses and remain submerged underwater for 3 months. Horus relied on his mother, the goddess Isis, to exploit Seth's vulnerability and eliminate him. However, the compassionate goddess felt sympathy for Seth and couldn't bring herself to kill him. This betrayal so enraged Horus that he attacked his own mother, severing her head completely. Thoth, the deity of wisdom, saved the goddess by replacing her severed head with a cow's head. The conflict between Seth and Horus continued relentlessly for many years. During one desert battle, Seth managed to tear out both of Horus's eyes. Through Hathor's intervention, the goddess of love, Horus regained his sight completely. The divine court demanded reconciliation between Seth and Horus. The evil god, pretending benevolence, invited Horus to feast in his palace. That night, Seth attempted to assault his nephew, hoping to make him unworthy of the throne. However, Horus successfully defended himself and prevented the god's poisonous seed from taking hold. Horus decided upon revenge, and with goddess Isis's help, placed his divine essence into lettuce leaves, which Isis then offered to Seth. The god of barren deserts consumed the contaminated lettuce unknowingly. Seth began deteriorating visibly before everyone, and a golden disc emerged from his forehead. Thoth seized this bright disc and embedded it into his own head. Seth had been utterly humiliated, and after 80 years of conflict, the court finally granted Horus his rightful throne. Isis felt immense pride witnessing her son with Osiris assume his father's position. Seth's punishment was eternal travel with Ra, the sun god, across the heavens, his furious screams echoing as thunder. Thus began Horus's reign over Egypt, and all pharaohs who would eventually rule Egypt descended from his divine lineage. Ra stands as the sun god in Egyptian mythology, typically depicted with a human body and falcon head, crowned by the solar disk. Once the mightiest of all deities, time eventually weakened him. Finding himself too aged, he chose to relinquish earthly power and ascend to the heavens. As one of Egyptian mythology's most revered figures, this sun god's primary duty involved driving away darkness. To accomplish this divine work, Ra traversed the skies in his solar vessel, illuminating the entire world. When twilight arrived, both god and ship plunged into oceanic waters toward the underworld. There he navigated through the dark realm, passing through 12 gates representing the netherworld's 12 regions. Ra required 1 hour to traverse each gate. Osiris resided in one of these regions, the underworld's lord whom Ra always visited respectfully. Before departing the underworld's darkness, the god faced attacks from the terrible serpent Apophis. This chaotic force attempted destroying Ra's vessel, and each day the serpent seemed closer to achieving her destructive goal. Apophis once succeeded in swallowing the sunboat, ending sunlight temporarily. But the serpent couldn't contain the god in her stomach and regurgitated him. This event became known as a solar eclipse. However, destroying Ra's boat became increasingly difficult since Seth, the destructive god who lost the supreme throne dispute to Horus, was condemned to navigate with Ra across the skies. He aided the sun god by defending his vessel against the terrible serpent, defeating it multiple times and making Ra's underworld journey considerably safer. Ra commanded worship throughout Egypt, but this god received special adoration in Heliopolis city. The god's prestige was so immense that other Egyptian religious traditions merged their supreme deities with Ra's image. For instance, the supreme gods Amun and Atum became known as Amun-Ra and Atum-Ra. Many pharaohs incorporated Ra's name into their own. Ramses serves as a well-known example, meaning son of Ra or the son of the sun. This naming practice strengthened the pharaoh's divine authority before his subjects. Anubis, depicted with a jackal head, represents an Egyptian deity connected to afterlife existence. As one of Egypt's most ancient gods, his role evolved significantly over the centuries. Initially, Anubis was considered the primary deity governing death and underworld realms, but this responsibility eventually transferred to Osiris. The jackal god became associated with embalming and mummification practices. During funeral ceremonies, priests commonly wore jackal masks throughout the mummification process. The god also served as protector of tombs and cemeteries, safeguarding the bodies of those entering the underworld. Anubis was born to goddess Nephthys, Seth's wife, but not through union with her husband. Instead, Nephthys had disguised herself as goddess Isis and coupled with Osiris. When Seth discovered this act of infidelity, he plotted against Osiris, murdering him and scattering his body parts across Egypt. After Isis gathered all the pieces, Anubis assisted the goddess during the god's funeral ritual, transforming Osiris's body into the first mummy. Anubis became the deity who guided spirits of the dead to the underworld, where the deceased faced judgment by a court presided over by Anubis himself. The god placed the deceased's heart on Osiris's scale with the feather of truth on the opposite side. If the heart proved heavier than the feather, indicating wickedness, it was delivered to Ammit, a demonic creature known as the Heart Devourer. If the feather outweighed the heart, indicating a light heart of the soul belonging to the righteous and virtuous, Anubis would escort the person to Osiris, and the deceased entered eternal afterlife. During Greek rule over Egypt, Anubis became associated with Hermes, who in Greek mythology also guided souls to the underworld. This association created a deity called Hermanubis, which gained popularity during Roman rule. Anubis remains one of Egyptian mythology's most beloved divinities, the god responsible for leading souls to the afterlife. Bastet appears as the cat goddess in Egyptian mythology, portrayed with a woman's body and feline head. Egyptians bestowed great honors upon cats, considering them sacred animals. Felines played meaningful roles in Egyptian society since they protected food supplies from rodent infestations and could frighten away treacherous poisonous serpents. Bastet represents a goddess associated with the sun, and therefore followed Ra during his daily solar boat journey across the skies. At night, the goddess transformed into a fierce cat, vigilantly protecting the world against the dreadful serpent Apophis. The goddess received worship throughout Egypt, and harming any cat constituted a terrible sacrilege. Anyone committing such violent acts could face death as punishment. Cats were regarded as family members, and according to various reports, whenever houses caught fire, cats entered burning buildings to help residents escape the flames. Sometimes these cats appeared to perish in the fires, but returned to life through goddess Bastet's power, emphasizing the popular saying about a cat's 9 lives. As sacred animals, cats underwent mummification, and Egypt contains cemeteries dedicated exclusively to these animal mummies. According to some versions, goddess Bastet connects to Sekhmet, the lion goddess. This goddess was violent and bloodthirsty, but became tamed, transforming into a gentle, milk-drinking cat goddess. In alternative versions, Bastet and Sekhmet were sisters and daughters of Ra. Even after Egyptian god worship ended, cats continue gazing at humans with regal bearing, hoping to have their deity acknowledged once again. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe to our channel so we can keep making great content.